Hi, morning. Welcome to the next tutorial, and we'll be touching JMeter's timers. So timers are something that can delay your request. For example, if you don't add any timers, so JMeter's thread will run automatically after some times. Say for example, now you have a scenario. Let's go back to the JMeter. I'll close and I'll open a new session. Right, so we are on a default page. So for example, let's consider a scenario where say you are on a shopping website and you have say 5 articles. You can say 5 commodities of an item. 5 items are there, and assume that a couple of users are on a website and they are looking out for items. So if one out of this is purchased, so you're left with 4. But in case your database is not updated and at the same time the user hit this item again and he still sees that there are 5 commodities left. I'm just giving an example. You could assume it as something you can you're making transactions on. Assume like 100 users are doing the same. That is not a random case. You would say that is not a very frequent case happening, so it is just a random. So what we want to do is that, for example, thread 1 has executed, so we want to delay thread 2 by say 3 seconds or any time that we can configure on our own, and then we want the next thread to execute, or you can say next iteration to execute. So how this works practically, we need to make use of timers that the JMeter has provided with its package. So before I move to the timer, so let's record a script again. Test script recorder 7070, and you can use Workbench, start the proxy, and you can go to the Mozilla and hit this page. So this has captured some response. So I'm not capturing a big script. I'm just want to explain you the logic, so you can stop the recorder now and say this is gone to the here. You can copy and create a thread group and paste it here. So now this thread group has one transaction, that is a login page. What I want is that, for example, before putting timers, let's see what happens. So I have number of threads as 1. I want to execute them 5 times. So let's add a listener. You can use results in table because this would give you the sample time and start time also very clearly. So now execute it. So you can see that there is not much difference between the timings out here. For example, say 47, 53, 54. It's almost difference in the seconds, and all the transactions are going very quickly, even if you have multiple iterations going on. But now I want, if after my second iteration is delayed, so what I can do is, let's try to put timer. So let's start with constant timer. So I want to wait for say 2000 milliseconds. So now what this would do is JMeter would wait for 2000 milliseconds and then start the next thread. So you can clear out the results and execute it again. So this is 48:55 and it has waited for the time we specified, 58:01, 04, 07. So you can see that it is constantly delaying the next thread by 2000 milliseconds plus the time that generally JMeter does take to execute the next step. Now this is a very simple examples, and you can use constant timers, and I mean it's not a much use in JMeter because almost we would like to put concurrent load and we don't want to wait for any time. But yes, in some transactions like banking or maybe e-commerce websites where your database needs to be updated, so you can wait for some time before executing the next thread. Right, so I'll just remove it. I'm sorry, just remove it. Yes. So the next timer is Gaussian random timer. So there are two fields out here. So this is constant. It will at least wait for 300 milliseconds. And this is deviation. This means that it would vary from 0 to 100 milliseconds. So for example, it could wait for say 300 plus, for example, if it comes out to be 10 here, so it could be 310. In next iteration it could be 300 plus 40, say 340. So this thing would be dynamic and would be generated according to some formula that is associated with Gaussian random timer. So let's try to execute and see what happens. Execute. No. 1350, 51, 51, 52. Okay, let's increase the timings here. So I'm expecting it to be delayed by at least 3 seconds plus whatever comes here. So this remove this offset and execute. So 51, 28 seconds, then 32 seconds. It's almost 3 plus something. Then 36, again 3 plus something. 43 plus something. So every time it is waiting for a different amount of time, which is the sum of this 3000 milliseconds and a dynamic value that is generated every time out of here. So this is the function of Gaussian random timer when you want your threads to be, you want to wait them for a dynamic period of time, not a constant one. So I will just remove this one too now. And let's add the third timer, that is Poisson random timer. So it is almost similar to what we have learned. This one is a constant value and this is variable. This is also coming according to some formula that the Poisson timers have. So I'm not getting into this formula one here because it would be long calculations. So what I can do is, let's put it 2000 milliseconds, or that would be 2 seconds plus whatever value that is generated dynamically from this parameter. So clear out the results, play it again. So let's see what happens now. This is 52, 55, then 58, that is 2 plus something. Then again 0, 1, 2 plus some milliseconds, and again 2 plus some milliseconds. So this is how the timers work, right? So one more thing that I can share out here is, just move it out. There is a sampler called, let me add here, sampler, which is called test action, which almost functions the same way your timers do. What you want an action to perform. You want to pause the thread, stop it, stop now, go to the next loop iteration. For example, if I want to pause the thread for say, it is almost similar to constant timer. Let's say 3000 milliseconds, that would be almost 3 seconds. So every thread will be pausing for 3 seconds and then next iteration will be going on. So let's clear out the results and execute it to see how it works. So it's 53, 59, it's almost 3 plus whatever time the JMeter automatically takes to execute. It's almost close to 1 second. So now you can see that even test action can be used to perform those functions. But it is almost similar to constant timer. You cannot define dynamic values here. So that was all for the timers session today. Thank you.